The killers of little Sara Sharif should swing. That by that I mean her dad. The only punishment for a crime so heinous is the death penalty. And I believe the majority of people in this great country of ours would agree with me. This man is worse than an animal. It would be an insult to animals to call him an animal. He has such a track record of violent crime, domestic violent crime, that he needs to swing. And for once, I agree with Sir Keir Starmer. There does need to be serious questions about this case. I've been in talk radio for over 30 years. How many times have I heard social workers and chiefs of police say, there'll be an inquiry, this must never happen again? Do you remember Baby P? And then it does happen again. And I'll tell you what the problem is here. There are questions to be answered. Sir Keir Starmer is correct, but some of the questions he won't like, because two-tier Keir is also to blame. The whole system, the whole establishment is to blame for the death of this little 10-year-old, Sara Sharif. As a father myself, I find it too hard to even read. I have read the details, but when you read of how this girl was tortured and how the authorities basically turned a blind eye, you've got to ask the question as well. And this is the question that Sir Keir won't like. Is it because he was a Muslim? That there was cultural sensitivities pussyfooting around? Did they not get suspicious when she started wearing the hijab? Was it there to cover up the bruises, the cigarette marks on her face and on her body that her father and his bitch of a wife had inflicted upon this 10-year-old girl? Why did no one intervene when he said he wanted to educate her at home? And today, I've just been watching the news. I'm sickened by the coverage. The BBC, the British biased corporation, and Sly News, they're all talking about, oh, yes, it mustn't happen again. And, oh, it's all to do with home education. Well, it's not really, because he murdered her outside term time, the final murder. So, yes, he took her out of school. And, yes, the abuse got worse, but it would have happened anyway. But these uber-liberal idiots are concentrating on that today, when what they should be concentrating is how did this monster, how was this monster allowed to nurture his violent streak? It goes back to his ex-wife, his ex-girlfriends. They all reported him. Why didn't the education authorities do anything? And I'm telling you, the real debate today should be, should we bring back the death penalty? Not for every crime, but for crimes like this. He will get 30 years, probably life next week. Him and his wife, both found guilty of murder. But prison is too good for them. I say they should have the Saddam shuffle. They should swing. If you agree with me, could you please get on Twitter, John Gaunt, Jongaunt, or get on Facebook, or send me an email, John, Jon, at johngaunt.com. My name is John Gaunt, obviously. This is the John Gaunt podcast. It's also now on YouTube. Welcome to all my new YouTube viewers. Please, if you like what you're hearing or like what you're seeing, subscribe, tell your friends, share the link, get more people watching. I've got to get my watch hours up, and then we will be flying. Yesterday's podcast went an absolute storm when I asked the question, at 63, am I too old to be a YouTuber? It seems the overwhelming majority of people say no, which is interesting because it's another podcast I'm going to do about how ageism is so prevalent in this country. But now let's go back to the murder. I don't want to get diverted either. The question is this another example of two-tier justice, two-tier Keir? Because he was a Muslim, is that why the education authorities were too scared to intervene? I'm not saying this is just a problem in the Muslim community. Of course not. Baby P being a prime example. Foul abuse like this, abuse of young children, happens in all communities. But did they not interfere? Were they careful because of religious sensibilities? Now, when you say, hold on, John, that's a bit out of order, well, is it? In the same week, we have a democratically elected MP in the Houses of Parliament or House of Commons last week. He was calling for blasphemy laws. to be brought back so that you can't basically have a go at the Quran and the nonsense, in my opinion, that's written in it, the nonsense in it. You should be able to criticize any religion. No religion should be above the law. And I include Christianity and Judaism in that. And, of course, the Muslim faith. I'm sorry, no. And Sakir, Tutir, when he answered that question, he didn't say, no, up yours, mate. This is Britain. This is the home of democracy. This is the mother of all parliaments. We are not bringing in a blasphemy law just because you want it, because you is a Muslim. It ain't going to happen. But no, he came up with some weedy, sort of pathetic excuse because he's very wary of this new voting system where people are beginning to vote on sectarian or religious lines, which is immensely, immensely dangerous for Britain, in my opinion. I would like yours on that as well. You know, you could also ask the question about the Manchester airport attackers. They are still not in a court. Maybe they're innocent. I don't know. But the only way to know if they're guilty of breaking that policewoman's nose, if they started the trouble rather than our brave armed coppers, is to get them up before 12 good men in troop. Instead, we let them on Sly News and on the British Bullshit Corporation have a press conference slagging off the police without any real evidence. Well, there's the video, wasn't there? But there's another video that contradicts that. Why aren't they in a court of law? Is it because they is Muslim? You see what I'm saying? The moment we start going down this line of sectarian policing, we know it happens. The real world, we know it happens. It happens with Just Stop Oil as well, doesn't it? They don't get in there. They go skateboarding with them. Or the gay marches, they start wearing the pink tutus. Soon our police will be dressed as nuns with their breasts out, like some of the gays are on the marches. I'm sorry, it's wrong. You should police with no prejudice and no favour. And if somebody steps out of line, even if it's a Palestinian, God save us, then you should get involved. And talking of which, all the Syrians, bye, Stelios, shocks away. All the Syrians who came here to get away from Assad, they can all go home now. Don't take any more asylum seekers from Syria. They're not in danger unless they're the ones who brought him down or supported him. Just follow where I'm coming from here. And why are we celebrating that he's been removed? He was a foul dictator, of course. But now we've got Al-Qaeda in charge. What a wonderful world that this is. But I say bye to all of the Syrians. We gave you refuge. You don't need to be here anymore. Bye. Let's get back to little Sara Sharif. I'm not going to read out the injuries inflicted on her. You know, there's been bite marks, cigarette marks. She was beaten with a cricket bat. And there's an amazing description of it on the BBC site. It's got to be said, if you want to read all the details, which I think I'd suggest you do, but it's horrendous. It really is horrendous. But why is there this political sensitivity? We also saw it, of course, with that murdering, well, he wasn't a murdering scumbag. We probably got rid of him before he became one. But Chris Cab, the gangster in London, they tried for a moment to turn that into a George Floyd Black Lives Matter situation. Well, George Floyd's another one, isn't he? George Floyd wasn't an angel, was he? I don't think he deserved to die by having somebody kneel on his neck. But I've kind of had enough of two-tier justice. Likewise, if there's racist police in the Met or any police force, root them out, get rid of them. But let's stop having two-tier justice. So, Sakir, what you should be doing today is saying we're not going to have that. You need to look into this education authority. You need to look into this council. You need to look into the person. As we let the father swing, right, and die or go into old Sparky, we should bring that into this country. As we kill him, as we execute him, we should have in a court of law, whichever stupid social worker or social workers said that this man could look after his children, which education officials gave him permission to educate this beautiful little girl at home. And I'd also like to know which part of the PR department of the relevant council or indeed the police, issued the photographs last night. We've seen those beautiful photos of her, the fact that she liked pink and all the rest of it. But the pictures released last night was her in a hijab. Now, I've got to ask the question in the old, neckerchief thing. Is it right? Headscarf. Why did they release that? Because surely that is part of the symbol of oppression of this little girl. He used that to hide the vicious injuries he was causing her. Why was he allowed to educate her at home? Why was he allowed to have any responsibility when there'd been reports before of him abusing his children physically? Not just that one, but other children. But they let him come back into her life. One of the other kids is in care. What is going on with this uber liberal approach? Oh, yeah, let the birth parents still be involved. No, this guy was a monster. There was enough evidence to say he shouldn't have had little Sara there. And then, I tie this in as well. Today, did you know that, let me just get the name correct. I've got it on my phone here. Axel Rudakana should be in court today. Who's he? Well, you haven't forgotten, have you? He's the man who's alleged to have murdered those 3 other beautiful young girls in Southport at a Taylor Swift dance class. He's meant to be in court today, but it's been delayed back to December the 18th. Why has there been so many delays over him? The Southport rioters were in prison before their Chinese takeaway stains had congealed on their T-shirts almost. They just got put away. Told to plead guilty, pled guilty, bang, 3.5 years. Rightly so for the rioters, in my opinion. But if it's good enough for them, why can't we get this monster in court? Why can't we get the Manchester airport killers in court? Also, of course, big questions over Rudakana. Why on earth did Starmer not tell us about the ricin being discovered? Am I meant to believe he wouldn't have known the same day, if not the next day, when the police went round his house to investigate? They would have found that, and the terror manual, whatever it is. Why wasn't the British public told? Well, we know the British public weren't told because Keir doesn't trust us, the decent, silent majority. No, he doesn't. He's in bed with the terrorists, effectively. He's in bed with the alleged killers. He's on their side. We saw this when he was director of public prosecutions. He loved the fact he could bang up a load of guys just recently. Now, some of them deserve to go to prison, but others who had just written things on Facebook, then retracted it. I don't think so. He's more keen on attacking free speech than attacking scum who want to murder our children. Now, I don't know whether Alex is guilty. I want him up before 12 good men and true. What I also want to know, Sir Keir, if we haven't got 2-tier policing on justice, how come we haven't seen a photo of him? We've got the photos when he was in Doctor Who. You couldn't make this up, could you? But when he was a kid, we haven't got any grown-up photos. There must be grown-up photos. We've got surveillance bloody cameras on every corner. I'm sure if I was up on a charge, I'd have every photo in the world up about it. Is it because I is white? Do you see where I'm coming from here? It makes me feel as if I'm not living in a fair and equal society. If somebody commits a crime, I don't care what colour they are. I don't believe or care what God they swear they believe in or worship. I just want them to be treated fairly on both sides of the coin. How many times is there a terror case and we don't hear for days the name, and then the name eventually comes out? Oh, and there's a surprise when the name comes out. So now it's got to a point where it's been counterproductive. People naturally assume straight away it's a Muslim terrorist, and it probably isn't. You don't know. But Sir Keir creates this, and it's not just me saying this. His own chief man when it comes to terrorism, the czar of terrorism, and also Lord Carlisle, terrorism expert, both said leaving an information vacuum can lead to problems. Well, that's what happened in Southport. Sir Keir knew what the problem was, didn't say it, pretended that the guy was from Wales, didn't he? And he was a Christian, when he's a Rwandan immigrant, been here years. And then there's all these other rumours swirling now about his family. Well, we, the British public, need the truth. I don't know what the truth is. I've heard all the stories. I've read all the reports. I've read all the stuff on social media, most of which has been taken down now. We need the truth. And the best way to do that with Axel is get him in court for these pre-trial hearings. So we know. And we have a right to see what it looks like. Who's allowing? I put this jumper on purpose. Who's allowing him to do this? Hello, I'm John Gaunt. Here, draw a picture of me now. Here, draw a picture of me. Draw a picture of me. I'm in court. Am I guilty or am I innocent? I don't know, but here I am. Do you think I would be allowed to do that in a court of law, even if I'd only been accused of shoplifting? Of course I wouldn't. Is it because I is white? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not fair. It's not equitable. It's ridiculous. It's an affront to law and democracy, and it needs to change. So these are the questions we need to ask Sakia, as well as how did it happen? How did this monster keep control of his children? How did nobody in the general public intervene? This little girl being tortured, being bitten by her dad and her mum, and cigarettes put out on her, beaten with a cricket bat. Did the neighbours not see anything? Are you blind? Are you dumb that you cannot see? This is a blight on our whole society. And it all comes from this namby-pamby, uber-liberal view. Oh, no, we can't have capital punishment. We can't have capital punishment. It's barbaric. You're as bad as them. Look, that's another one off the street. I'm saying use it in specialist cases. But I want them dead. I want this guy, the father, and the mother probably, executed. Am I right or am I wrong? Am I a monster or am I talking sense? I know the polls, I did some research on this before I started. The polls are always about 50-50. Some of them come out and saying, yes, the British public want it back. And I'm sure if you ask the British public today, they'd say yes. And when the Southport verdict comes in, whether it's guilty or not, that will affect what people think. But people are fed up of living in fear. Forget about concreting over the country, Sakia. The first thing people want you to get on charge of is protecting our borders and protecting our children and our women and ourselves, men, on the streets of the United Kingdom. That's your first job. The first responsibility of any government is the protection of its citizens. But we seem to put the protection of everybody else before the decent, silent majority. Because let me tell you, the biggest insult in this and the Southport incidents, they don't trust us. They don't trust the decent, silent majority. That's what it's about. That's why the Manchester 2 have not yet been in court. They might be innocent. It might be the coppers caused the problem. I just want to know. And the only way I can know in a proper democracy is by 12 good men in true trying them. Likewise, the same situation with this man who's alleged to have been the Southport killer. Get him in court. What was all that bullshit about? He was only a boy. We can't name him. They knew he was 3 or 4 days away from being the right age to name him. They're taking us for mugs. I keep saying this. They treat us like mushrooms. Keep us in the dark and feed us shit. It's got to stop. And Sakia, because he comes from this legal background and is always doing this, checking his notes like this, right? He has no emotion. He has no reality. He's not grounded in what me and you are going through. My daughter's 30. My wife was dog sitting this time. She didn't get back till late. She'd gone to a party. We were worried sick about her. She's fucking 30 and we're still concerned. Why? Because she'd been in London, getting the train back. You worry. And we're worrying too much because there's too many monsters of all religions living amongst us. I want them rooted out. I want a situation where the decent, silent majority can go about their business and be treated with respect. I want criminals to get said proper sentencing. If it's 10 years, it is 10 years. If you're well behaved, it's still 10 years, but we don't put any extra time on it. Build more prisons. It's ironic that Labour are now saying this. They spent all their time in opposition against it. And the lousy Tories allowed this situation to develop. They've created a them and us. That's why there's antagonism between the settled indigenous community, whether they're black, white, yellow, blue, whatever, of the United Kingdom, those of us who either were born here, who came here legally, have been here for generations, whatever, and the people who are arriving in rubber boats via Calais at Dover. No one really hates them as individuals, but they also have the reality, like Angela Rayner. Have you seen her? Bob the Builder had more fucking intelligence than her. Can we build it? Yes, we can. So Angela Rayner is going to build 1.5 million homes, but when it's pointed out to her, well, that's about the same number of people who are getting in illegally or legally, she doesn't have an answer. And also, she needs those people in to build the houses because we haven't trained our own people. She makes Diane Abbott, Abacus Abbott, right, with her sums, she makes her look like Carol fucking Vorderman. But these are the people who are running the country. And so Sir Keir today, and again, no respect. He didn't even have a tie on when they were interviewing him about this little angel, this little girl who's dead. Just there with an open neck shirt like that, right? Where's your respect, man? Where's your respect? Why aren't you dealing with this subject? He was too busy. He was at some new building project in Cambridge because they're going to build 1.5 million houses. If you believe that, then I've got some beans to sell if you want them. Let's get a grip, Sir Keir. And you could start with this case. And let's have a proper debate about the death penalty. I say her dad should swing. Are you with me or are you against me? John@johngaunt.com. Or alternatively, that's on Twitter. Oh, no, that's my email. Or on Twitter, go to John Gaunt, Jongaunt. Or alternatively, get on Facebook. This debate needs to happen. And this two-tier policing and criminal justice system needs to stop. A crime is a crime is a crime. A suspect is a suspect is a suspect. When they're found guilty, they're guilty. That's all that matters. Everything else is irrelevant. But we have a right to know. And it's always a coincidence when it's a terror thing that we're not told the name. Is it not? Got a view? Let me know. Also, as I say, thank you very much now. If you listen to the audio podcast, please start looking at my YouTube channel, John Gaunt TV. I've now got 2,600, I think it is, watch hours. I've got to get 4,000. So the more of you watch it, the quicker I get there. Then I can monetize it. And by monetizing it, I can then get adverts and move on from there. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to rebuild my career at 63. I've lost everything. Ever since I called that counsellor a Nazi, which I still believe in, by the way, I lost everything. Then I got sepsis, nearly lost my life. Now I'm here. But I'm getting there with the support of people like you. So if you want to help me, go to www.buymeacoffee.com. www.buymeacoffee.com. And if you've come to the videos or the podcasts, have a listen to some of the others. There's some great ones in there that I've been recording. There's over 70 now, I think nearly 80 different broadcasts. And I think I'm saying things that you probably agree with, or if you don't agree with them, you'll want to have a rant about. But I'm saying it without fear or favor. I'm totally independent. Nobody tells me what to say. I just come on here and say it. I don't even have a script, as you can tell. I'm not Keir Starmer. My name is John Gaunt. No, you can't see my face. You can't see my face. I'm not letting you see my face. Boo. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with another podcast. Spread the word for me. Until then, if you've got children, please, after what you've read today, give them a kiss, give them a hug, and don't forget to tell them you love them. See you later.